I'm Jeff Bloomquist. I'm going to be talking to you today about John Deere and how it came to become what it is today. Since there are a lot of topics to talk about with John Deere, I only chose three of them I thought would interest you, and they are John Deere the man himself, John Deere the early years, and John Deere today. By the end of my speech, I hope you'll be able to know more about John Deere and how it got to be where it is today. John Deere the man. His story starts out in Rutland, Vermont on February 7th in 1804. He didn't have a very easy childhood. When he was 4 years old, his father went off to England, and he never came back, so his mother was left to raise him and his 4 other siblings. With his mother's consent, he became an apprentice for a blacksmith at age 17, and 4 years later, he started his own shop. He had 2 wives, Demarius Lamb and Lucinda. They were sisters. With Demarius, he had 5 kids, was married with for 38 years, and they had Charles Deere, which later overtook the company from his father. And she died in 1865. Lucinda, he married 2 years later in 1867, and they had 4 children together. And they were together for about 19 years until he died at 82 years old on May of 17th of 1886. The company first started out in Grand Interior, Illinois. He moved away from Vermont because he wasn't having very much luck out there. He had a lot of loans he wasn't able to pay off, and his shop burned down twice. He owed one lender $78.76, which was quite a bit back then. So when he finally got to Grand Interior, he started out his own blacksmith shop and had a total of $73 left in his pockets. When he first moved out there, you noticed right away that the plows weren't very good. So he was always looking for a way to make a better plow. And one day he was out walking around and saw a broken saw blade. He took that and made a small plow out of it and tested it in different soils. And that's how the steel plow came around. It became popular pretty quick because in the following year he sold 3 plows. Next year he sold another 10, and by 1840 he sold 40 plows every year. So in 1843 he needed to partner up to keep up with production, so he found Leonard Andrus, and in 1846 they sold over 1,000 plows and over 1,600 in 1850. In 1847 he sold his share of the company to Leonard and moved to Moline, Illinois, because he was next to the river and find cheaper power and cheaper transportation for his products. In 1918, Deere bought the Waterloo Boyd Company, and they sold nearly 5,700 of the kerosene-powered tractors. And 5 years later, in 1923, Deere came out with the Model D. It was the first tractor to display the John Deere name and the John Deere colors of green and yellow. And it was just a little small 2-cylinder. And you'll hear more about that tractor in one of the next presentations coming up. And now that we know about John Deere starting out, we can see where they are today. They're in a variety of fields now instead of just agriculture. In 2000, they bought a company of Timberjack, and that's how they got into the forestry industry. They also make construction. They're invested in wind energy throughout rural America. They do landscaping, which includes their compact tractors and the lawnmowers, and they provide credit for financing to their customers when they buy equipment. They also have toys to target small kids, but I think they pretty much target kids between 16 and 25 probably with the toys. Some of the awards that they've received throughout since 2000: the most trusted Illinois company, the top 100 best corporate citizens, the top 50 most admired companies, and in 2006 their CEO Robert W. Lane received CEO of the Year. They celebrated their 175th anniversary last year in 2012, and in that 175 years, they started from $73 to a multi-billion-dollar corporation on John Deere, so I wasn't able to cover all of it today, but here are some of the sources I used to find it. I got quite a bit of information on it. So if you're just curious about to learn more about John Deere, this is where I went, and I thought they were pretty good sites.